Opponents of Sedevacantism often accuse Sedevacantists of schism. That actually in and of itself is a violation of church teaching, accusing Sedevacantists today of schism. At the Fifth Lateran Council, Pope Julius II declared ex cathedra that you could withdraw your loyalty from a bishop or pontiff who was elected through synod without incurring any penalty. Well, another condition was introduced in 1559 by Pope Paul IV in his bull Cum ex Apostolatus Officio. Paragraph 6 of Cum ex Apostolatus Officio shows that a heretic cannot be elected pope or bishop. Paragraph 7 shows that anyone, including the laity, may at any time withdraw loyalty from those thus elevated or elected, and that they could do so without penalty. Examining the heresies of the post-Vatican II claims to the papacy is a subject and content for, I'd say, another video, but several other videos. And many people have already done that. However, all of that aside, if we look at Canon 188, Section 4 from the 1917 Code of Canon Law, we can see that heresy or public defection of the faith is cause for automatic loss of office, ipso facto, regardless of whether people make excuses for certain statements or certain claims by the post-Vatican II claimants to the papacy or by any other claimants to episcopal chairs. Regardless of what those may constitute, if it does appear to be heresy or if it is heresy, that is something that Canon 188 Section 4, by Code of Canon Law, according to church teaching, absolutely causes ipso facto loss of office. And contrary to what some R&R apologists such as John Salza, Robert Siscoe, and others might say about Canon 188 Section 4, ipso facto excommunication actually means ipso facto excommunication. It does not mean it's excommunication after a pope, a sitting pope, is judged by a college of cardinals, judged by a council of bishops, or anything else. The first see is judged by no one, which is a dogma. No one actually means no one, no person. It does not mean the first see is judged by a council. It does not mean that the first see is judged by the College of Bishops. No one actually means no one. In order to hold that position, you would actually have to reject even more church teaching. And specifically for members of the Vatican II sect, this dogma and this code of canon law still stands because, let's say hypothetically you follow JP2's 1983 Code of Canon Law, the exact same canon pops up, restated, reiterated, just as clear as it was in the 1917 Code, regardless of whether those who promulgated the 1983 Code of Canon Law want you to follow these particular canons. Things reiterated in the 1983 Code of Canon Law from the 1917 Code of Canon Law, Canon 188 Section 4 is actually reiterated in the 1983 Code of Canon Law as Canon 194.2. So then some anti-sedevacantists will claim that Canon 188 Section 4 and the 1917 Code of Canon Law actually abrogates all of cum ex apostolatus officio because certain disciplinary portions of the bull no longer apply because they're not really practical. But that has more to do with the cessation of law principle than having it completely abrogated by the 1917 Code of Canon Law. That position doesn't hold any water for two reasons. One, the most important part of cum ex apostolatus officio is not only enshrined in the 1917 Code of Canon Law, but even for members of the Vatican II sect and those who follow JP2 and believe him to be a saint, would have to follow that exact same law and that exact same code reiterated in Canon 194 of the 1983 Code of Canon Law in their own church. So if we take a look at Canon 188 Section 4 in the Latin, and then we look at the footnotes for Canon 188 Section 4 to see where it gets its governing doctrine in the 1917 Code of Canon Law, we can clearly see that it's cum ex apostolatus officio, meaning that cum ex apostolatus officio was enshrined in Canon 188 Section 4 of the 1917 Code of Canon Law. If this is indeed abrogation, we can see that not only was it preserved, and were certain portions of it preserved, such as automatic ipso facto excommunication by a cleric for heresy, but we can also take a look at how paragraph 7 was also preserved. When we look at the canonists who commented on this exact issue 20 years later, 20 years after the implementation of the 1917 Code of Canon Law, we can clearly see that the laity can withdraw their loyalty from those thus promoted or elevated, just as paragraph 7 teaches in cum ex apostolatus officio. This means that even if someone claims that cum ex apostolatus officio was abrogated in its entirety by the 1917 Code of Canon Law, paragraph 6 obviously wasn't, and paragraph 7 clearly was not either. The only way for an anti-sedevacantist to accuse a sedevacantist of schism is to violate church teaching. It's that simple. Go against what the canonists said, and go against what the Pope said. Unfortunately, rejection of core dogmas of the Catholic faith and rejection of all Catholic teaching is a very common thing in the Vatican II sect and extremely widespread among its members. If we were to just look at one of these core dogmas, if 70% of your church believes something that is blatantly heretical and by its very own nature severs a man from the body, is your church of heretics, or is it the Holy Roman Catholic and Apostolic Church outside of which no man is saved?